Is America's retail system quietly crumbling? What happens when the world's most powerful economy begins to show signs of stress not from bombs or protests, but from the slow shuttering of stores and rising receipts at the grocery checkout? Could we be watching the beginning of one of the most significant shifts in American retail history and not even realize it? President Trump has recently recommended a new 50% tariff on all imports from the European Union, escalating an already tense economic situation. Alongside this, he has issued a direct warning to Apple, threatening a 25% tariff on its products unless the tech giant brings iPhone manufacturing back to the United States. These decisions aren't just shaking the corporate boardrooms, they're beginning to reshape daily life for the average American consumer. In Portland, the last two Walmarts are closing their doors, leaving hundreds of people scrambling for new places to shop. It started gradually. First, it became hard to find certain popular products. Then the delivery trucks arrived, less frequently. Eventually, stores began turning off their lights permanently. These weren't isolated incidents. They were early signs of a larger crisis that's been building quietly. The tremors were felt before the public even noticed. Apple's California logistics hubs started experiencing delays, and Costco began canceling silent bulk orders. It wasn't just industry insiders ringing alarm bells anymore. The effects were creeping into everyday American life. This is not just about a few companies closing shop. It's a foundational challenge to America's consumer economy. Shelves might still appear partially stocked today, but behind that image, the system is under immense strain. As of June 2025, America could be headed toward one of the quietest but most devastating retail collapses in its history. This is not a problem of corporate profits alone. It's a challenge that affects families across the country who are trying to make ends meet with every paycheck. According to Walmart's CEO, Doug McMillon, "We can't take all the pressure anymore." It was a short sentence, delivered at an investor meeting, but it spoke volumes. Prices are going up, not just on expensive electronics, but on everyday goods. The eggs people eat for breakfast, bottled water, toys, household items, and even toilet paper are becoming more expensive. And these hikes are not necessarily about corporate greed. They are, in many cases, a direct result of the US government's increasing reliance on tariffs as a tool for economic policy. While some of these tariffs are seen by officials as a long-term good for the economy, in the short term, they're being felt by consumers as an immediate hit to the wallet. A 25% increase on numerous products, from tech imported from China to food from Canada and shoes from Vietnam, means shoppers are now paying significantly more than they did just months ago. This isn't just Walmart's problem, it's a national issue. Across the US, people are feeling the squeeze. A retired factory worker from New Jersey described how the same grocery cart that cost her $98 last year now costs $129. "I couldn't believe the receipt," she said. "I wondered if the cart had shrunk." It's a disappointment. Walmart, for its part, is trying to stay quiet while urgently working behind the scenes. It's reevaluating its supply chains to find options that are less affected by tariffs. The company is also looking into alternatives to taxed materials like aluminum, which have added significantly to costs. But this is a game of survival. If Walmart doesn't act fast, it risks losing control over prices. And Walmart isn't alone. Costco, one of the largest retailers in the country, is also feeling the heat. The company's business model depends on moving large volumes of goods, but rising costs due to tariffs are eating into its profits. Products imported from China, Europe, Mexico, and Canada are all now more expensive. Each week, Costco adjusts its supply chain in an effort to adapt, but the challenges are growing. The company has already begun to scale back profit forecasts. Analysts are now pointing to a broader slowdown in growth. Customers, too, are beginning to notice. Prices are rising, and store shelves seem a little less full. Costco's image of abundance and low prices is now being tested. A shopper recently reported that a whole cooked chicken she regularly purchased for $5 had suddenly jumped in price by $1.50 overnight. That may seem minor to some, but for many families, every dollar counts, and such price increases are adding up fast. Then there's Apple, which now finds itself at the center of this growing economic storm. On a Friday morning that shocked both investors and tech enthusiasts, President Trump made a public declaration. Apple must move iPhone production to the United States or face an immediate 25% tariff. This caught Apple completely off guard. For years, the company has maintained a complex and highly efficient supply chain based in China and Southeast Asia. Shifting that production to the US would not only be logistically difficult, it would be enormously expensive. Experts warn that if Apple were to manufacture iPhones in the US, the retail cost could jump from around $1,000 to potentially $3,000. Markets responded swiftly to the news. Apple shares dropped by roughly 4% as investors considered the implications. This isn't just Apple's issue. The broader tech sector is now on alert. If Apple caves to this pressure, which company will be next? Some temporary tariff relief has been granted in specific areas, but the overall picture remains complicated. One Chinese supplier that works with major American retailers, such as Walmart and Target, has reportedly cut its production by 70% and laid off over 100 employees. The company is attempting to relocate operations to Vietnam, but cash reserves are running low. Not every company has the resources to adapt, and uncertainty from the government on how long tariffs will last or what new rules might be imposed makes it nearly impossible to plan ahead. This leads to an even deeper concern: product shortages. In the past, retailers could switch to different suppliers if issues arose, but with sweeping tariffs now in place, that flexibility is gone. Behind the scenes, whispers from industry insiders suggest that by autumn, major retailers like Walmart could face serious inventory shortfalls. Even though store shelves look full today, that might not be the case in a few months. Fewer choices and higher prices could become the new normal. The ripple effects won't stop at retail. This could have consequences for the broader US economy. Costco is scaling back orders. Walmart is overhauling supply chains. Apple is under extreme political pressure. Tariffs, which are higher now than in recent years, are slowing the global flow of goods and threatening delays in retail. As a result, Americans might begin to find fewer products available on shelves, and those that remain may be unaffordable for some. There's growing political division over the issue. Some Democratic governors, particularly those in retail-heavy states like New York, are warning that the economic impact of these tariffs could be severe. They fear that these moves will disproportionately hurt average citizens. President Trump and his advisors, on the other hand, argue that these measures are necessary to protect American industry and build a more resilient economic foundation. They acknowledge the short-term pain but promise long-term gain. Companies are moving carefully. Walmart has stayed neutral in political debates but clearly signals that the road ahead is dangerous. Apple is closely monitoring developments. Costco has already begun evaluating alternative suppliers, but large-scale shifts in production aren't feasible overnight. These changes will take time, money, and patience. So what's next? That's a question many American consumers are asking. As shelves slowly thin out and prices continue to climb, the answer may be written not in economic theory, but in the day-to-day lives of people who are simply trying to get by. The quiet closure of stores, the rising price tags, and the tightening grip of tariffs may be warning signs of something larger. Whether this marks a turning point in America's economic story or just a temporary storm remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: the retail landscape is shifting, and it's doing so in a way that no one can ignore.